What's going on, guys? So you guys have probably seen a ton of other finance channels on YouTube talking about how to strategically invest in things like the stock market and even possibly real estate, right? There's plenty of channels for that. But I think the big thing I hear over and over again, right, is, well, how do I actually save enough cash to do that, right? That's a major hurdle for a lot of people, and especially in the real estate game, and especially if you live in an expensive market like I do, right? So I live in Boston, and even if you're gonna try to buy a piece of real estate as an owner occupant, right, where you could get loans for as down payment as little as 5-10%, that could still be quite a bit of cash in a market like Boston, right? So if you wanted to invest, and let's say you wanted to buy like a duplex or a triplex in Boston, you're looking probably somewhere between 700 to $1,000,000. So even on 5% down, you got to save at least probably $40,000-$50,000 comfortably, right, to make a play. So a lot of you guys kind of struggle, right, because that's a fair amount of cash, and especially if you're, on the younger side, you haven't had a chance to save money over 10 or 15 years, it could be a major hurdle. Now, if you guys don't know, I actually own quite a bit of rental units myself in Boston. I'm just under 30 units with a portfolio value of 10 million bucks. And I don't say that kind of just like brag, right? And my point here is I've come up with like a personal finance strategy that's allowed me to like really be super diligent about how I can save all my earned income, right? Be very strategic, diligent about it, save that up so that I can make plays in the real estate game, right? I've used plays such as owner occupying, multifamilies. I've actually syndicated deals as well with joint venture partners. But even on those kinds of transactions, it still typically requires quite a bit of capital. So I've had to be super diligent about how I save my money. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys, is kind of my personal finance philosophy on how to not only save, but save strategically so you guys can make some power moves as well. You're probably asking, like, what's this philosophy, right? It's pretty straightforward. You've probably heard from other people. I've heard names from anything like stay broke. You probably know who kind of coined that phrase. My personal favorite is stack and rack. But basically, the philosophy is this, right? Whatever your earned income is, right? So whether it's you've got a small business that you own, maybe your sales 1099 contractor, and you've got commissions coming in like I do, or even if you're W-2 employed, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever your earned salary, income, commissions, whatever it is, right? Basically what I do is I take, every time I get a paycheck, I'll take a certain percent of it, put it towards my everyday expenses, right? So that's just like my living expenses, basic utilities, food, and etc. Everything else essentially goes into a savings account, right? So I never really have that much cash saved up in my checkings account, really just what I need to live in for that week, that month, that period. Everything else, I'm super, super diligent. It goes essentially right into a savings account that's actually labeled my real estate investing savings account. I literally labeled that on my Bank of America portal. And it stays there, right? And it stays there, unless there's an emergency, it stays there as the funds that will be used for my next real estate transaction. Now, what this means is, you gotta be super diligent about not spending your cash on, let's be frank, stupid, you know what I mean, right? So, and here's what I mean, right? It's super easy when you get a big chunk of cash, right? Let's say you're on commission basis, maybe you closed a big deal and you get a really nice fat paycheck. It's super easy to go and spend that money lavishly on like a new car, upgrade your living style to like a new luxury apartment. Those really big ticket items is what I think hurts people the most, right? And by no means am I one of those guys that thinks like, oh, you got to pinch every penny. You can't go to Starbucks. You can't go out to eat. You got to like eat like canned foods. Like, I don't believe in any of that, right? I go to Starbucks every single day. I have my cup of coffee. I eat out many, many times a week too. I'll usually get lunch outside. I'll also get like one or two nice meal. I'll get a nice restaurant meal as well. With friends or whatever it is, right? That's not the point here. You're not looking to squeeze out an extra like 10 or $30 per, every single time. Because as someone famously once said, if you save 10 bucks every week for the next 10 years, you're just gonna stay poor, right? So the trick is really emphasizing the big ticket items, right? And that's one thing I've done really well. I haven't spent lavishly on a car. My source of income is being a real estate broker. And I can tell you, I see so many real estate brokers spending stupid cash on like really nice luxury cars that they just frankly don't need, right? I mean, I've never lost on a client because I didn't have like a luxury Mercedes, BMW or whatever. And that's just 60, 70,000 bucks that can go towards a down payment, right? And actually produce income. So those are the big things. I don't live in a lavish apartment, right? I know people that live in like $3,000, $4,000 apartments downtown that are like have all the bells and whistles. And again, it's, you can certainly do that, but do you really need that at this point? The answer is likely not really, right? And that also goes with other big ticket items, right? Like I know people that will spend a lot of money on vacations, like $5,000 to $10,000. And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't go on vacation. I'm not saying you shouldn't travel. By no means am I saying that, but figure out how you can really control those costs, right? Those big things that really take a dip at your bank account. That's one thing I've prioritized over and over again, rather than the little things, rather than trying to squeeze penny at the coffee shop or when I'm out to eat or feeling guilty for getting an extra beer when I'm out at a restaurant, right? That's not the mentality you want to have. I used to do that like a couple of years ago, and it's just not, first of all, it's not fun, right? Because you're always worrying about, the cents and the dollars. And it really doesn't lead to any productive means. Because like I said, even if you save an extra 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 bucks a week, that's going to be what? A couple, $200 a month. That's not going to get you far if you're trying to do something big like a real estate play, right? You need to save $50,000, $100,000, not $50. And I've actually noticed this concept play out with a lot of successful bigger real estate guys that I've talked to, right? They all say very similar things where they have so much cash coming in, because they own tons of units, they'll have tons of cash flow coming in, but they typically will recycle that right back and go and try to find a new acquisition, new building, right? So that means they're also being super diligent about these cash flows, right? Money comes into your checking, whatever you need to pay the bills today, you keep that in there. Everything else should go right into another savings account, one that you shouldn't really touch too much unless there's an emergency. But I see it over and over again, right? With successful people, with people that are up and coming, they are able to control their expenses to, it doesn't need to be super minimalist, but again, it's not like they're not balling out, they're not having this insane lavish lifestyle as they're trying to grow out their portfolio, their business, their rental acquisitions, etc. So hopefully that makes sense, right? If you remember one thing, just remember this: you don't need to squeeze the pennies on the little stuff. I really don't believe in that. I think it just adds a lot of pressure and a lot of stress to your lifestyle without really having a productive benefit. But if you're gonna do one thing, focus on those big ticket items, right? Don't go buy a brand new Mercedes because you got a $50,000 check. That's just dumb, right? Don't go lease a $4,000 apartment downtown and be that baller in that penthouse, because even though it's cool, that's just cash burning every single month. That's 50 grand or 60 grand over the course of a year that you could save and go buy something that produces you cash flow, right? So I know I'm not the first person on YouTube to say this, but just remember about this concept of large ticket items versus small ticket items, and that should help you really start saving in order to make a power play in real estate. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you guys have any questions, any comments, shoot them below.